Today I'm going to teach you how to use the Megmade Furniture Paint to hand brush a dresser. So we are going to do it on this one. You can use a roller on this one on the top if you want, but it has a lot of details and it has pieces here where you're going to really need a brush because a flat roller isn't going to do the trick. So I'm going to show you some tips and tricks on how to use the brush to paint your own piece. On this one, again, I love the hardware on this one. I think it's really pretty. I also like the patina on it. So I'm not gonna spray it, even though you could, or you could also fill in these holes and put on new hardware. That's gonna be in a different video we're gonna show you on how to use wood filler. But today we're just gonna take this off, so you just need a flat head, and you can just go right onto the back and pull this hardware off. I have a time or two lost hardware because I haven't done a good job of keeping it in a safe place. So if you have a Ziploc or a Tupperware handy, that is where I suggest putting it. A really good tip on every time you're gonna paint a piece of furniture is on the back side of the drawer, just write which number this is. Because on old pieces, the drawers have settled into their position and you wanna put them back in the place that they were so that it functions as you want. The prep is my least favorite part because I just wanna get to the pretty part, just like houses. I don't necessarily like all the construction, but I appreciate it, but I wanna get to the good stuff, the pretty stuff. But the prep, it really is the most important. So we're gonna take our clean slate, we're gonna clean off anything that was on here to give us a really nice clean slate to paint on. We are gonna paint this one in Megmade Eggplant. It's gonna be a really rich purple. The fun thing about these colors is without wax, they're lighter. You add wax, they get darker. And then if you add a dark wax, they get almost like twice the color that they are. So it's so fun because you almost have like 3 colors in one. We're gonna pour this in here. I already shook it pretty well. We're gonna take this brush and get the excess off. We're gonna add a little bit of water. You can always add more, so start slow. Just put a little bit in there. I'm gonna mix it around. This is my chip brush, so this is one of those really, really cheap brushes. You're gonna throw these away. So these are nicer brushes. You're gonna wanna wash those out. But this paint dries so quickly. So if you use a nicer brush and you wanna keep it, you're gonna need to wash it out or wrap it up in saran wrap in between coats so that you don't ruin it. When you're working with this, you can actually paint inside because it is a completely green paint. So even if you're pregnant or doing it in a nursery around kids, it is a paint that you can use at home. However, it is always smart to do it on top of a tarp or somewhere that you don't care if the paint gets onto. The trick with hand brushing the paint on is number one, you just want to get it on. And once you get it on, then you're gonna smooth it out and go in really long strokes. But to begin with, you just want to get it on. You can really cram it into those crevices and into the detail of the wood. And then you're gonna want to do a longer stroke afterwards to smooth it out so that you don't see all of those brush strokes. In these areas here, you don't want to put too much paint on your brush or it's gonna drip and pool in there. So you really just you kind of stab the brush in there and then pull it over. And that's how you get into these crevices, is you kind of stab the brush into the crevices and then you pull the paint. Once the paint starts drying, even if you see a drip, you do not want to try to pull it because then you're going to be pulling the dry paint and you're gonna create a bigger problem than the drip itself. So once it starts drying, don't try to fix that area. Only try to fix things that are definitely still wet. So the top is a big surface. It's easier to do with a roller, but if you're doing it with a brush, you just wanna get the paint on and then you wanna even the strokes out afterwards. But first, you just gotta get the paint on it quickly because you don't want it to dry on you. And then you even it out with a long stroke. One thing you're gonna notice when you use the chip brush, I usually use the chip brush on the first layer, but they shed. So you're gonna get these little hairs and you wanna take them off for the second round, and then you can kind of wipe them off a little bit. And then I usually use a nicer brush on my final coat so that it won't shed. So that's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna put on the second coat. I gave it a light scuff with some sandpaper to get that, any dust or anything that had settled on it off of it. And now we're gonna go for the final coat. On this one, I only needed 2 coats because it's a really dark color and it's covering really well. Sometimes you might need to do a third, but I have found that 1 light coat and 1 heavy coat usually do the trick. So here we go. We're gonna really start seeing the transformation come to life. So the paint is now dry and it's ready for wax. So I'm choosing wax on this. This tutorial is more about how to paint it than how to finish it. So on this one, we're gonna use wax, but you can also use our clear matte sealer. You can also use a spray gloss can, but today we're gonna use the wax. I love this stuff. It's so easy to apply. This is the other half of Joe's t-shirt. I ripped it up into lots of different pieces and you literally put it on here. This stuff is great to use on dehydrated wood, on over paint, and it just really brings it back to life and it protects it. So I'm putting a pretty liberal amount on here and then I'm just gonna rub it around and the excess can just go right onto the towel. I'm gonna let this sit on here for about 24 hours. I'm gonna go ahead and put the hardware on and everything. But if you aren't wanting it, or if you are wanting it to be a little shinier, you can always buff it with steel wool or with the rat. So now you know how to use a brush to paint a piece of furniture. And I'm so excited to see what you guys create.